the Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Translated into English prose from the original Sanskrit text by Pratap Chandra Roy C.I.E. This free ebook has been downloaded from holybooks.com. Sabha Parva. Section 65, Dutta Parva continued. Sakuni said, "Thou hast, O Yudhishthira, lost much wealth of the Pandavas. If thou hast still anything that thou hast not yet lost to us, O son of Kunti, tell us what it is." Yudhishthira said, "O son of Suvala, I know that I have untold wealth. But why is it, O Sakuni, that thou askest me of my wealth? Let tens of thousands and millions and tens of millions and hundreds of millions and tens of billions and hundreds of billions and trillions and tens of trillions and hundreds of trillions and tens of quadrillions and hundreds of quadrillions and even more wealth be staked by thee? I have as much. With that wealth, O king, I will play with thee." Vasampayana said, hearing this, Sakuni, ready with the dice, adopting unfair means, said unto Yudhishthira, "Lo, I have won." Yudhishthira said, "I have, O son of Suvala, immeasurable kin and horses and milch cows with calves and goats and sheep in the country extending from the Panasa to the eastern bank of the Sindhu. With this wealth, O king, I will play with thee." Vasampayana said, hearing this, Sakuni, ready with the dice, adopting unfair means, said unto Yudhishthira, "Lo, I have won." Yudhishthira said, "I have my city, the country, land, the wealth of all dwelling therein except of the Brahmanas, and all those persons themselves except Brahmanas still remaining to me. With this wealth, O king, I will play with thee." Vasampayana said, hearing this, Sakuni, ready with the dice, adopting foul means, said unto Yudhishthira, "Lo, I have won." Yudhishthira said, "These princes here, O king, who look resplendent in their ornaments and their earrings and nishkas and all the royal ornaments on their persons are now my wealth. With this wealth, O king, I play with thee." Vasampayana said, hearing this, Sakuni, ready with his dice, adopting foul means, said unto Yudhishthira, "Lo, I have won them." Yudhishthira said, "This Nakula here, of mighty arms and leonine neck, of red eyes and endued with youth is now my one stake. Know that he is my wealth." Sakuni said, "O King Yudhishthira, Prince Nakula is dear to thee. He is already under our subjection. With whom, as stake, wilt thou now play?" Vasampayana said, saying this, Sakuni cast those dice, and said unto Yudhishthira, "Lo, he hath been won by us." Yudhishthira said, "This Sahdeva administereth justice. He hath also acquired a reputation for learning in this world. However undeserving he may be to be staked in play, with him as stake I will play, with such a dear object as if, indeed, he were not so." Vasampayana said, hearing this, Sakuni, ready with the dice, adopting foul means, said unto Yudhishthira, "Lo, I have won." Sakuni continued, "O king, the sons of Madri, dear unto thee, have both been won by me. It would seem, however, that Bhimsena and Dhananjaya are regarded very much by thee." Yudhishthira said, "Wretch! Thou actest sinfully in thus seeking to create disunion amongst us who are all of one heart, disregarding morality." Sakuni said, "One that is intoxicated falleth into a pit, hell, and stayeth there deprived of the power of motion. Thou art, O king, senior to us in age, and possessed of the highest accomplishments. O bull of the Bharata race, I beg thy pardon and bow to thee. Thou knowest, O Yudhishthira, that gamesters, while excited with play, utter such ravings that they never indulge in the like of them in their waking moments nor even in dream. Yudhishthira said, He that taketh us like a boat to the other shore of the sea of battle, he that is ever victorious over foes, the prince who is endued with great activity, he who is the one hero in this world, is here. With that Falguna as stake, however, undeserving of being made so, I will now play with thee. Vasampayana said, hearing this, Sakuni, ready with the dice, adopting foul means, said unto Yudhishthira, Lo, I have won. Sakuni continued, this foremost of all wielders of the bow, this son of Pandu capable of using both his hands with equal activity hath now been won by me. O play now with the wealth that is still left unto thee, even with Bhima thy dear brother, as thy stake, O son of Pandu. Yudhishthira said, O king, however undeserving he may be of being made a stake, I will now play with thee by staking Bhimsena, that prince who is our leader, who is the foremost in fight, even like the wielder of the thunderbolt, the one enemy of the Danvas, the high-souled one with leonine neck and arched eyebrows and eyes looking askance, who is incapable of putting up with an insult, who hath no equal in might in the world, who is the foremost of all wielders of the make, and who grindeth all foes. Vasampayana said, hearing this, Sakuni, ready with the dice, adopting foul means, said unto Yudhishthira, Lo, I have won. Sakuni continued, Thou hast, O son of Kunti, lost much wealth, horses and elephants and thy brothers as well. Say, if thou hast anything which thou hast not lost. Yudhishthira said, I alone, the eldest of all my brothers and dear unto them, am still unwon. Won by thee, I will do what he that is won will have to do. Vasampayana said, hearing this Sakuni, ready with the dice, adopting foul means, said unto Yudhishthira, Lo, I have won. Sakuni continued, Thou hast permitted thyself to be won. This is very sinful. There is wealth still left to thee, O king. Therefore, thy having lost thyself is certainly sinful. Vasampayana continued, having said this, Sakuni, well skilled at dice, spoke unto all the brave kings present there of his having won, one after another, all the Pandavas. The son of Suvala then, addressing Yudhishthira said, O king, there is still one stake dear to thee that is still unwon. Stake thou Krishna, the princess of Panchala. By her, win thyself back. Yudhishthira said, with Draupadi as stake, who is neither short nor tall, neither spare nor corpulent, and who is possessed of blue curly locks, I will now play with thee. Possessed of eyes like the leaves of the autumn lotus, and fragrant also as the autumn lotus, equal in beauty unto her, Lakshmi, who delighteth in autumn lotuses, and unto Shri herself in symmetry and every grace she is such a woman as a man may desire for wife in respect of softness of heart, and wealth of beauty and of virtues. Possessed of every accomplishment and compassionate and sweet speech, she is such a woman as a man may desire for wife in respect of her fitness for the acquisition of virtue and pleasure and wealth. Retiring to bed last and waking up first, she looketh after all down to the cowherds and the shepherds. Her face too, when covered with sweat, looketh as the lotus or the jasmine. Of slender waist like that of the wasp, of long flowing locks, of red lips, and body without down, is the princess of Panchala. O king, making the slender-waisted Draupadi, who is even such as my stake, I will play with thee, O son of Suvala. Vasampayana continued, when the intelligent king Yudhishthira the just has spoken thus, "Fie, fie," were the words that were uttered by all the aged persons that were in the assembly. And the whole conclave was agitated, and the kings who were present there all gave way to grief. And Bhishma and Drona and Kripa were covered with perspiration. And Vidura holding his head between his hands sat like one that had lost his reason. He sat with face downwards giving way to his reflections and sighing like a snake. But Dhritarashtra glad at heart, asked repeatedly, "Hath the stake been won? Hath the stake been won?" and could not conceal his emotions. Karna with Dusasana and others laughed aloud, while tears began to flow from the eyes of all other present in the assembly. And the son of Suvala, proud of success and flurried with excitement and repeating, "Thou hast one stake, dear to thee," etc., said, "Lo, I have won," and took up the dice that had been cast. Thus ends the 65th section in the Dyuta Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 66, Dyuta Parva continued. Duryodhan said, "Come, Kshatta, bring hither Draupadi the dear and loved wife of the Pandavas. Let her sweep the chambers, force her thereto, and let the unfortunate one stay where our serving women are." Vidura said, "Dost thou not know, O wretch, that by uttering such harsh words thou art tying thyself with cords? Dost thou not understand that thou art hanging on the edge of a precipice? Dost thou not know that being a deer thou provokest so many tigers to rage? Snakes of deadly venom, provoked to ire, are on thy head. Wretch, do not further provoke them lest thou goest to the region of Yam. In my judgment, slavery does not attach to Krishna, inasmuch as she was staked by the king after he had lost himself and ceased to be his own master. Like the bamboo that beareth fruit only when it is about to die, the son of Dhritarashtra winneth this treasure at play. Intoxicated, he perceiveth nor in these his last moments that dice bring about enmity and frightful terrors. No man should utter harsh speeches and pierce the hearts of the others. No man should subjugate his enemies by dice and such other foul means. No one should utter such words as are disapproved by the Vedas and lead to hell and annoy others. Some one uttereth from his lips words that are harsh. Stung by them another burneth day and night. These words pierce the very heart of another. The learned, therefore, should never utter them, pointing them at others. A goat had once swallowed a hook, and when it was pierced with it, the hunter placing the head of the animal on the ground tore its throat frightfully in drawing it out. Therefore, O Duryodhan, swallow not the wealth of the Pandavas. Make them not thy enemies. The sons of Pritha never use words such as these. It is only low men that are like dogs who use harsh words towards all classes of people, viz., those that have retired to the woods, those leading domestic lives, those employed in ascetic devotions and those that are of great learning. Alas! The son of Dhritarashtra knoweth not that dishonesty is one of the frightful doors of hell. Alas! Many of the Kurus with Dusasana amongst them have followed him in the path of dishonesty in the matter of this play at dice. Even gourds may sink and stones may float, and boats also may always sink in water, still this foolish king, the son of Dhritarashtra, listeneth not to my words that are even as regimen unto him. Without doubt, he will be the cause of the destruction of the Kurus. When the words of wisdom spoken by friends and which are even as fit regimen are not listened to, but on the other hand temptation is on the increase, a frightful and universal destruction is sure to overtake all the Kurus. Thus ends the 66th section in the Dutta Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 67, Dutta Parva continued. Vasampayana said, intoxicated with pride, the son of Dhritarashtra spake, "Fie on Kshatta," and casting his eyes upon the Pratikmeen in attendance, commanded him, in the midst of all those reverend seniors, saying, "Go Pratikmeen, and bring thou Draupadi hither. Thou hast no fear from the sons of Pandu. It is Vidura alone that raveth in fear. Besides, he never wisheth our prosperity." Vasampayana continued, thus commanded the Pratikmeen, who was of the Sutha caste, hearing the words of the king, proceeded with haste, and entering the abode of the Pandavas, like a dog in a lion's den, approached the queen of the sons of Pandu. And he said, "Yudhishthira having been intoxicated with dyes, Duryodhan, O Draupadi, hath won thee. Come now, therefore, to the abode of Dhritarashtra. I will take thee, O Yajnasni, and put thee in some menial work." Draupadi said, "Why, O Pratikmeen, dost thou say so? What prince is there who playeth staking his wife?" The king was certainly intoxicated with dyes. Else, could he not find any other object to stake? The Pratikmeen said, when he had nothing else to stake, it was then that Ajatasattu, the son of Pandu, staked thee. The king had first staked his brothers, then himself, and then thee, O princess. Draupadi said, "O son of the Sutha race, go, and ask that gambler present in the assembly, whom he hath lost first, himself, or me. Ascertaining this, come hither, and then take me with thee, O son of the Sutha race." Vasampayana continued, the messenger coming back to the assembly told all present the words of Draupadi. And he spoke unto Yudhishthira sitting in the midst of the kings, these words, "Draupadi hath asked thee, whose lord wert thou at the time thou lost me in play? Didst thou lose thyself first or me?" Yudhishthira, however, sat there like one demented and deprived of reason, and gave no answer good or ill to the Sutha. Duryodhan then said, "Let the princess of Panchala come hither, and put her question. Let every one hear in this assembly the words that pass between her and Yudhishthira." Vasampayana continued, the messenger, obedient to the command of Duryodhan, going once again to the palace, himself much distressed, said unto Draupadi, "O princess, they that are in the assembly are summoning thee. It seemeth that the end of the Kauravas is at hand, when Duryodhan, O princess, is for taking thee before the assembly. This weak-brained king will no longer be able to protect his prosperity." Draupadi said, "The great ordainer of the world hath indeed ordained so. Happiness and misery pay their court to both the wise and unwise. Morality, however, it hath been said, is the one highest object in the world. If cherished, that will certainly dispense blessings to us. Let not that morality now abandon the Kauravas. Going back to those that are present in that assembly, repeat these my words consonant with morality. I am ready to do what those elderly and virtuous persons conversant with morality will definitely tell me." Vasampayana continued, the Sutha, hearing these words of Yajnasni, came back to the assembly and repeated the words of Draupadi. But all sat with faces downwards, uttering not a word, knowing the eagerness and resolution of Dhritarashtra's son. Yudhishthira, however, O bull of the Bharata race, hearing of Duryodhan's intentions, sent a trusted messenger unto Draupadi, directing that although she was attired in one piece of cloth with her navel itself exposed, in consequence of her season having come, she should come before her father-in-law weeping bitterly. And that intelligent messenger, O king, having gone to Draupadi's abode with speed, informed her of the intentions of Yudhishthira. The illustrious Pandavas, meanwhile, distressed and sorrowful, and bound by promise, could not settle what they should do. And casting his eyes upon them, King Duryodhan, glad at heart, addressed the Sutha and said, O Pratikmeen, bring her hither. Let the Kauravas answer her question before her face. The Sutha, then, obedient to his commands, but terrified at the possible wrath of the daughter of Drupta, disregarding his reputation for intelligence, once again said to those that were in the assembly, What shall I say unto Krishna? Duryodhan, hearing this, said, O Dasasana, this son of my Sutha, of little intelligence, feareth Vrikodra. Therefore, go thou thyself and forcibly bring hither the daughter of Yajnasena. Our enemies at present are dependent on our will. What can they do thee? Hearing the command of his brother, Prince Dasasana rose with blood-red eyes, and entering the abode of those great warriors, spake these words unto the princess, Come, come, O Krishna, princess of Panchala, thou hast been won by us. And O thou of eyes large as lotus leaves, come now and accept the Kurus for thy lords. Thou hast been won virtuously, come to the assembly. At these words, Draupadi, rising up in great affliction, rubbed her pale face with her hands, and distressed she ran to the place where the ladies of Dhritarashtra's household were. At this, Dasasana, roaring in anger, ran after her and seized the queen by her locks, so long and blue and wavy. Alas! Those locks that had been sprinkled with water sanctified with the mantras in the great Rajasuya sacrifice, were now forcibly seized by the son of Dhritarashtra, disregarding the prowess of the Pandavas. And Dasasana, dragging Krishna of long locks unto the presence of the assembly, as if she were helpless though having powerful protectors, and pulling at her, made her tremble like the banana plant in a storm. And dragged by him, with body bent, she faintly cried, Wretch! It ill behoveth thee to take me before the assembly. My season hath come, and I am now clad in one piece of attire. But Dasasana, dragging Draupadi forcibly by her black locks while she was praying piteously unto Krishna and Vishnu, who were Narayana and Nara on earth, said unto her, Whether thy season hath come or not, whether thou art attired in one piece of cloth or entirely naked, when thou hast been won at dice and made our slave, thou art to live amongst our serving women as thou pleasest. Vasampayana continued, with hair dishevelled and half her attire loosened, all the while dragged by Dasasana, the modest Krishna. Consumed with anger, faintly said, In this assembly are persons conversant with all the branches of learning devoted to the performance of sacrifices and other rites, and all equal unto Indra, persons some of whom are really my superiors and others who deserve to be respected as such. I cannot stay before them in this state. O wretch! O thou of cruel deeds, drag me not so. Uncover me not so. The princes, my lords, will not pardon thee, even if thou hast the gods themselves with Indra as thy allies. The illustrious son of Dharma is now bound by the obligations of morality. Morality, however, is subtle. Those only that are possessed of great clearness of vision can ascertain it. In speech even I am unwilling to admit an atom of fault in my Lord, forgetting his virtues. Thou draggest me who am in my season before these Kuru heroes. This is truly an unworthy act. But no one here rebuketh thee. Assuredly, all these are of the same mind with thee. O fie! Truly hath the virtue of the Bharata gone. Truly also hath the usage of those acquainted with the Kshatriya practice disappeared. Else these Kurus in this assembly would never have looked silently on this act that transgressed the limits of their practices. Oh! Both Drona and Bhishma have lost their energy, and so also hath the high-souled Kshatriya, and so also this king. Else, why do these foremost of the Kuru elders look silently on this great crime? Vasampayana continued, thus did Krishna of slender waist cry in distress in that assembly. And casting a glance upon her enraged lords the Pandavas who were filled with terrible wrath, she inflamed them further with that glance of hers. And they were not so distressed at having been robbed of their kingdom, of their wealth, of their costliest gems, as with that glance of Krishna moved by modesty and anger. And Dasasana, beholding Krishna looking at her helpless lords, dragging her still more forcibly, and addressed her, slave, slave, and laughed aloud. And at those words Karna became very glad and approved of them by laughing aloud. And Sakuni, the son of Suvala, the Gandhara king, similarly applauded Dasasana. And amongst all those that were in the assembly, except these three and Duryodhan, everyone was filled with sorrow at beholding Krishna thus dragged in sight of that assembly. And beholding it all, Bhishma said, O blessed one, morality is subtle. I therefore am unable to duly decide this point that thou hast put, beholding that on the one hand one that hath no wealth cannot stake the wealth belonging to others, while on the other hand wives are always under the orders and at the disposal of their lords. Yudhishthira can abandon the whole world full of wealth, but he will never sacrifice morality. The son of Pandu hath said, I am one therefore, I am unable to decide this matter. Sakuni hath not his equal among men at dice play. The son of Kunti still voluntarily staked with him. The illustrious Yudhishthira doth not himself regard that Sakuni hath played with him deceitfully. Therefore, I cannot decide this point. Draupadi said, the king was summoned to this assembly, and though possessing no skill at dice, he was made to play with skillful, wicked, deceitful and desperate gamblers. How can he be said then to have staked voluntarily? The chief of the Pandavas was deprived of his senses by wretches of deceitful conduct and unholy instincts, acting together, and then vanquished. He could not understand their tricks, but he hath now done so. Here, in this assembly, there are Kurus who are the lords of both their sons and their daughters-in-law. Let all of them, reflecting well upon my words, duly decide the point that I have put. Vasampayana continued, unto Krishna who was thus weeping and crying piteously, looking at times upon her helpless lord, Dasasana spake many disagreeable and harsh words. And beholding her who was then in her season thus dragged, and her upper garments loosened, beholding her in that condition which she little deserved, Vrikodra afflicted beyond endurance, his eyes fixed upon Yudhishthira, gave way to wrath. Thus ends the 67th section in the Dvita Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 68, Dvita Parva continued. Bhima said, O Yudhishthira, gamblers have in their houses many women of loose character. They do not yet stake those women having kindness for them even. Whatever wealth and other excellent articles the king of Kashi gave, whatever gems, animals, wealth, coats of mail and weapons that other kings of the earth gave, our kingdom, thyself and ourselves, have all been won by the foes. At all this my wrath was not excited, for thou art our Lord. This, however, I regard as a highly improper act, this act of staking Draupadi. This innocent girl deserveth not this treatment, having obtained the Pandavas as her lords, it is for thee alone that she is being thus persecuted by the low, despicable, cruel, and mean-minded Kauravas. It is for her sake, O king, that my anger falleth on thee. I shall burn those hands of thine. Satdeva, bring some fire. Arjuna hearing this, said, Thou hast never, O Bhimsena, before this uttered such words as these. Assuredly thy high morality hath been destroyed by these cruel foes. Thou shouldst not fulfill the wishes of the enemy. Practice thou the highest morality. Whom doth it behove to transgress his virtuous eldest brother? The king was summoned by the foe, and remembering the usage of the Kshatriyas, he played at dice against his will. That is certainly conducive to our great fame. Bhima said, If I had not known, O Dhananjaya, that the king had acted according to Kshatriya usage, then I would have, taking his hands together by sheer force, burnt them in a blazing fire. Vasampayana continued, beholding the Pandavas thus distressed and the princes of Panchala also thus afflicted, Vikarna the son of Dhritarashtra said, Ye kings, answer ye the question that hath been asked by Yajnasni. If we do not judge a matter referred to us, all of us will assuredly have to go to hell without delay. How is that Bhishma and Dhritarashtra, both of whom are the oldest of the Kurus, as also the high-souled Vidura, do not say anything? The son of Bharadvaja, who is the preceptor of us, as also Kripa, is here. Why do not these best of regenerate ones answer the question? Let also those other kings assembled here from all directions answer according to their judgment this question, leaving aside all motives of gain and anger. Ye kings, answer ye the question that hath been asked by this blessed daughter of King Drupta, and declare after reflection on which side each of ye is. Thus did Vikarna repeatedly appeal to those that were in that assembly. But those kings answered him not one word, good or ill. And Vikarna, having repeatedly appealed to all the kings, began to rub his hands and sigh like a snake. And at last the prince said, Ye kings of the earth, ye Kauravas, whether ye answer this question or not, I will say what I regard as just and proper. Yea, foremost of men, it hath been said that hunting, drinking, gambling, and too much enjoyment of women, are the four vices of kings. The man that is addicted to these, leaveth forsaking virtue. And people do not regard the acts done by a person who is thus improperly engaged, as of any authority. This son of Pandu, while deeply engaged in one of these vicious acts, urged thereto by deceitful gamblers, made Draupadi a stake. The innocent Draupadi is, besides, the common wife of all the sons of Pandu. And the king, having first lost himself, offered her as a stake. And Suvala himself, desirous of a stake, indeed prevailed upon the king to stake this Krishna. Reflecting upon all these circumstances, I regard Draupadi as not one. Hearing these words, a loud uproar rose from among those present in that assembly. And they all applauded Vikarna and censured the son of Suvala. And at that sound, the son of Radha, deprived of his senses by anger, waving his well-shaped arms, said these words, O Vikarna, many opposite and inconsistent conditions are noticeable in this assembly. Like fire produced from a faggot, consuming the faggot itself, this thy ire will consume thee. These personages here, though urged by Krishna, have not uttered a word. They all regard the daughter of Drupta to have been properly won. Thou alone, O son of Dhritarashtra, in consequence of thy immature years, art bursting with wrath, for though but a boy thou speakest in the assembly as if thou wert old. O younger brother of Duryodhan, thou dost not know what morality truly is, for thou sayest like a fool that this Krishna who hath been justly one as not one at all. O son of Dhritarashtra, how dost thou regard Krishna as not one, when the eldest of the Pandavas before this assembly staked all his possessions? O bull of the Bharata race, Draupadi is included in all the possessions of Yudhishthira. Therefore, why regardest thou Krishna who hath been justly one as not one? Draupadi had been mentioned by Suvala and approved of as a stake by the Pandavas. For what reason then dost thou yet regard her as not one? Or, if thou thinkest that bringing her hither attired in a single piece of cloth is an action of impropriety, listen to certain excellent reasons I will give. O son of the Kuru race, the gods have ordained only one husband for one woman. This Draupadi, however, hath many husbands. Therefore, certain it is that she is an unchaste woman. To bring her, therefore, into this assembly, attired though she be in one piece of cloth, even to uncover her is not at all an act that may cause surprise. Whatever wealth the Pandavas had, she herself and these Pandavas themselves have all been justly won by the son of Suvala. O Dasasana, this Vikram speaking words of apparent wisdom is but a boy. Take off the robes of the Pandavas as also the attire of Draupadi. Hearing these words the Pandavas, O Bharata, took off their upper garments and throwing them down sat in that assembly. Then Dasasana, O king, forcibly seizing Draupadi's attire before the eyes of all, began to drag it off her person. Vasampayana continued, when the attire of Draupadi was being thus dragged, she thought of Hari. And she herself cried aloud, saying, O Govinda, O thou who dwellest in Dwarka, O Krishna, O thou who art fond of cowherdesses of Vrindavana, O Keswa, sayest thou not that the Kauravas are humiliating me? O Lord, O husband of Lakshmi, O Lord of Vraja Vrindavana, O destroyer of all afflictions, O Janardana, rescue me who am sinking in the Kaurava ocean. O Krishna, O thou great yogin, thou soul of the universe, thou creator of all things, O Govinda, save me who am distressed, who am losing my senses in the midst of the Kurus. Thus did that afflicted lady resplendent still in her beauty, O king covering her face cried aloud, thinking of Krishna, of Hari, of the Lord of the three worlds. Hearing the words of Draupadi, Krishna was deeply moved, and leaving his seat, the benevolent one, from compassion, arrived there on foot. And while Yajnasni was crying aloud to Krishna, also called Vishnu and Hari and Nara for protection, the illustrious Dharma, remaining unseen, covered her with excellent clothes of many hues, and, O monarch, as the attire of Draupadi was being dragged, after one was taken off, another of the same kind appeared covering her. And thus did it continue till many clothes were seen. And, O exalted one, owing to the protection of Dharma, hundreds upon hundreds of robes of many hues came of Draupadi's person. And there arose then a deep uproar of many voices. And the kings present in that assembly, beholding that most extraordinary of all sights in the world, began to applaud Draupadi and censure the son of Dhritarashtra. And Bhima then, squeezing his hands, with lips quivering in rage, swore in the midst of all those kings a terrible oath in a loud voice. And Bhima said, hear these words of mine, ye Kshatriyas of the world, words such as these were never before uttered by other men, nor will anybody in the future ever utter them. Ye lords of earth, if having spoken these words I do not accomplish them hereafter, let me not obtain the region of my deceased ancestors. Tearing open in battle, by sheer force, the breast of this wretch, this wicked-minded scoundrel of the Bharata race. If I do not drink his lifeblood, let me not obtain the region of my ancestors. Vasampayana continued, hearing these terrible words of Bhima that made the down of the auditors to stand on end. Everybody present there applauded him and censured the son of Dhritarashtra. And when a mass of clothes had been gathered in that assembly, all dragged from the person of Draupadi, Dasasana, tired and ashamed, sat down. And beholding the sons of Kunti in that state, the persons those gods among men that were in that assembly all uttered the word, Fie, on the son of Dhritarashtra. And the united voices of all became so loud that they made the down of anybody who heard them stand on end. And all the honest men that were in that assembly began to say, Alas! The Kauravas answer not the question that hath been put to them by Draupadi. And all censuring Dhritarashtra together, made a loud clamor. Then Vidura, that master of the science of morality, waving his hands and silencing every one, spake these words, Ye that are in this assembly, Draupadi having put her question is weeping helplessly. Ye are not answering her. Virtue and morality are being persecuted by such conduct. An afflicted person approacheth an assembly of good men, like one that is being consumed by fire. They that are in the assembly quench that fire and cool him by means of truth and morality. The afflicted person asketh the assembly about his rights, as sanctioned by morality. They that are in the assembly should, unmoved by interest and anger, answer the question. Ye kings, Vikern hath answered the question, according to his own knowledge and judgment. Ye should also answer it as ye think proper. Knowing the rules of morality, and having attended an assembly, he that doth not answer a query that is put, incurreth half the demerit that attacheth to a lie. He, on the other hand, who, knowing the rules of morality and having joined an assembly answereth falsely, assuredly incurreth the sin of a lie. The learned quote as an example in this connection the old history of Prahlad and the son of Angiras. There was of old a chief of the Daityas of the name Prahlad. He had a son named Virochna. And Virochna, for the sake of obtaining a bride, quarrelled with Sudhamvan, the son of Angiras. It hath been heard by us that they mutually wagered their lives, saying I am superior, for the sake of obtaining a bride. And after they had thus quarrelled with each other, they both made Prahlad the arbitrator to decide between them. And they asked him, saying, Who amongst us is superior to the other? Answer this question. Speak not falsely. Frightened at this quarrel, Prahlad cast his eyes upon Sudhamvan. And Sudhamvan in rage, burning like unto the make of yam, told him, If thou answerest falsely, or dost not answer at all, thy head will then be split into 100 pieces by the wielder of the thunderbolt with that bolt of his. Thus addressed by Sudhamvan, the Daitya, trembling like a leaf of the fig tree, went to Kasyapa of great energy, for taking counsel with him. And Prahlad said, Thou art, O illustrious and exalted one, fully conversant with the rules of morality that should guide both the gods and the asuras and the brahmanas as well. Here, however, is a situation of great difficulty in respect of duty. Tell me, I ask thee, what regions are obtainable by them who upon being asked a question, answer it not, or answer it falsely? Kasyapa thus answered, He that knoweth, but answereth not a question from temptation, anger or fear, casteth upon himself 1,000 nooses of Varuna. And the person who, cited as a witness with respect to any matter of ocular or auricular knowledge, speaketh carelessly, casteth 1,000 nooses of Varuna upon his own person. On the completion of 1 full year, one such noose is loosened. Therefore, he that knoweth, should speak the truth without concealment. If virtue, pierced by sin, repaireth to an assembly, for aid, it is the duty of everybody in the assembly to take off the dart, otherwise they themselves would be pierced with it. In an assembly where a truly censurable act is not rebuked, half the demerit of that act attacheth to the head of that assembly, a fourth to the person acting censurably, and a fourth unto those others that are there. In that assembly, on the other hand, when he that deserveth censure is rebuked, the head of the assembly becometh freed from all sins, and the other members also incur none. It is only the perpetrator himself of the act that becometh responsible for it. O Prahlad, they who answer falsely those that ask them about morality destroy the meritorious acts of their 7 upper and 7 lower generations. The grief of one who hath lost all his wealth, of one who hath lost a son, of one who is in debt, of one who is separated from his companions, of a woman who hath lost her husband, of one that hath lost his all in consequence of the king's demand, of a woman who is sterile, of one who hath been devoured by a tiger, during his last struggles in the tiger's claws, of one who is a co-wife, and of one who hath been deprived of his property by false witnesses, have been said by the gods to be uniform in degree. These different sorts of grief are his who speaketh false. A person becomes a witness in consequence of his having seen, heard, and understood a thing. Therefore, a witness should always tell the truth. A truth-telling witness never loseth his religious merits and earthly possessions also. Hearing these words of Kasyapa, Prahlad told his son, Sudhamvan is superior to thee, as indeed, his father, Angiras is superior to me. The mother also of Sudhamvan is superior to thy mother. Therefore, O Virochna, this Sudhamvan is now the lord of thy life. At these words of Prahlad, Sudhamvan said, Since unmoved by affection for thy child, thou hast adhered to virtue, I command, let this son of thine live for 100 years. Vidura continued, Let all the persons, therefore, present in this assembly hearing these high truths of morality, reflect upon what should be the answer to the question asked by Draupadi. Vasampayana continued, The kings that were there, hearing these words of Vidurai answered not a word, yet Karna alone spoke unto Dasasana, telling him, Take away this serving woman Krishna into the inner apartments. And thereupon Dasasana began to drag before all the spectators the helpless and modest Draupadi, trembling and crying piteously unto the Pandavas her lords. Thus ends the 68th section in the Dyuta Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 69, Dyuta Parva continued. Draupadi said, Wait a little, thou worst of men, thou wicked-minded Dasasana. I have an act to perform, a high duty that hath not been performed by me yet. Dragged forcibly by this wretch's strong arms, I was deprived of my senses. I salute these reverend seniors in this assembly of the Kurus. That I could not do this before cannot be my fault. Vasampayana said, Dragged with greater force than before, the afflicted and helpless Draupadi, undeserving of such treatment, falling down upon the ground, thus wept in that assembly of the Kurus, alas, only once before, on the occasion of the Swayamvara, I was beheld by the assembled kings in the amphitheatre, and never even once beheld afterwards. I am today brought before this assembly. She whom even the winds and the sun had seen never before in her palace is today before this assembly and exposed to the gaze of the crowd. Alas, she whom the sons of Pandu could not, while in her palace, suffer to be couched even by the wind, is today suffered by the Pandavas to be seized and dragged by this wretch. Alas, these Kauravas also suffer their daughter-in-law, so unworthy of such treatment, to be thus afflicted before them. It seemeth that the times are out of joint. What can be more distressing to me, than that though high-born and chaste, I should yet be compelled to enter this public court? Where is that virtue for which these kings were noted? It hath been heard that the kings of ancient days never brought their wedded wives into the public court. Alas, that eternal usage hath disappeared from among the Kauravas. Else, how is it that the chaste wife of the Pandavas, the sister of Prishata's son, the friend of Vasudeva, is brought before this assembly? Ye Kauravas, I am the wedded wife of King Yudhishthira the Just, hailing from the same dynasty to which the king belongeth. Tell me now if I am a serving maid or otherwise. I will cheerfully accept your answer. This mean wretch, this destroyer of the fame of the Kurus, is afflicting me hard. Ye Kauravas, I cannot bear it any longer. Ye kings, I desire ye to answer whether ye regard me as one or unworn. I will accept your verdict whatever it be. Hearing these words, Bhishma answered, I have already said, O blessed one, that the course of morality is subtle. Even the illustrious wise in this world fail to understand it always. What in this world a strong man calls morality is regarded as such by others, however otherwise it may really be, but what a weak man calls morality is scarcely regarded as such even if it be the highest morality. From the importance of the issue involved, from its intricacy and subtlety, I am unable to answer with certitude the question thou hast asked. However, it is certain that as all the Kurus have become the slaves of covetousness and folly, the destruction of this our race will happen on no distant date. O blessed one, the family into which thou hast been admitted as a daughter-in-law, is such that those who are born in it, however much they might be afflicted by calamities, never deviate from the paths of virtue and morality. O Princess of Panchalai, this conduct of thine also, viz., that though sunk in distress, thou still castest thy eyes on virtue and morality, is assuredly worthy of thee. These persons, Drona and others, of mature years and conversant with morality, sit heads downwards like men that are dead, with bodies from which life hath departed. It seemeth to me, however, that Yudhishthira is an authority on this question. It behoveth him to declare whether thou art one or not one. Thus ends the 69th section in the Dutta Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 70, Dutta Parva continued. Vasampayana said, the kings present in that assembly, from fear of Duryodhan, uttered not a word, good or ill, although they beheld Draupadi crying piteously in affliction like a female osprey, and repeatedly appealing to them. And the son of Dhritarashtra beholding those kings and sons and grandsons of kings all remaining silent, smiled a little, and addressing the daughter of the king of Panchala, said, O Yajnasni, the question thou hast put dependeth on thy husbands, on Bhima of mighty strength, on Arjuna, on Nakula, on Sahdeva. Let them answer thy question. O Panchali, let them for thy sake declare in the midst of these respectable men that Yudhishthira is not their lord, let them thereby make King Yudhishthira the just a liar. Thou shalt then be freed from the condition of slavery. Let the illustrious son of Dharma, always adhering to virtue, who is even like Indra, himself declare whether he is not thy lord. At his words, accept thou the Pandavas or ourselves without delay. Indeed, all the Kauravas present in this assembly are floating in the ocean of thy distress. Endued with magnanimity, they are unable to answer thy question, looking at thy unfortunate husbands. Vasampayana continued, hearing these words of the Kuru king, all who were present in the assembly loudly applauded them. And shouting approvingly, they made signs unto one another by motions of their eyes and lips. And amongst some that were there, sounds of distress such as, "Oh!" and "Alas!" were heard. And at these words of Duryodhan, so delightful to his partisans, the Kauravas present in that assembly became exceedingly glad. And the kings, with faces turned sideways, looked upon Yudhishthira conversant with the rules of morality, curious to hear what he would say. And everyone present in that assembly became curious to hear what Arjuna, the son of Pandu, never defeated in battle, and what Bhimsena, and what the twins also would say. If however, I am once commanded by King Yudhishthira the Just, I would slay these wretched sons of Dhritarashtra, making slaps do the work of swords, like a lion slaying a number of little animals. If however, I am once commanded by King Yudhishthira the Just, I would slay these wretched sons of Dhritarashtra, making slaps do the work of swords, like a lion slaying a number of little animals. Vasampayana continued, unto Bhima who had spoken these words Bhishma and Drona and Vidura said, Forbear, O Bhima! Everything is possible with thee. Thus ends the 70th section in the Dvita Parva of the Sabha Parva. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe to be notified of when new audiobooks are uploaded. Thank you for listening and learning. Shanti.